Hi everyone, it's John from What Up, and welcome back to another video. Now, in this video, I'm going to dive into the great unblurring just a bit and give my thoughts and theories upon what these unblurred scripts mean for the show, where they fit in, and exactly what the scene's context could be. Now, I know some of you out there are probably scratching your heads going, well, what's the great unblurring? Well, for those of you in the know, you probably already watched Matt over the Dusty Wheel, and for those of you who don't, the link to his channel is down below in the description box. He runs a live Wheel of Time talk show a couple of times a week and does some short content as well. So if you don't already subscribe to him, please go over there and do that. He is fantastic. His shows are really great. But what has been happening essentially is Amazon Prime has been giving all of us in the fandom little tidbits here and there over the last few months. Now, they weren't specifically marketing the Wheel of Time. They were just sort of interacting with the fandom. They gave us some castings, they gave us some pictures, they gave us a few different things here and there, but it all started with these little short 15 to 30 second teasers that they're giving us, and they all seem to include a couple of different elements that were the same. The first bit was a script, parts of it blurred, so they give us one or two lines of a script that we could actually see, and the rest of it was all blurred. Then they would dive into something, whether it be Thom's guitar, Matt's dagger, different things from the series that we really want to see. They'd show some images, some pictures, how it came about, or maybe even a clip of the show when they did that. And it was really, really very cool. However, like anything, if you give it to a very, very vocal fandom, they are going to tear it apart and just get into the minutia of every single detail. And is kind of what happened here with the Great Unblurring. So essentially, Matt over the Dusty Wheel took it upon himself, along with some other people in the fandom, to take these scripts and unblur them. So yes, Amazon Prime put out blurred scripts with little lines in it, and then they unblurred them. So we got to see a little bit more of the script. Now, I'm pretty sure going forward, we probably won't see actual scripts being blurred anymore because they know that we can do this now. But because we get those extra few lines, it gives us a chance to maybe think about where these scenes fall into the show, how they interact with one another, where they're at, and exactly what is going on, so what the context is. And that's what I'm going to give today is my theories on that. Now stay tuned at the end of the video for Matt's theories. He's doing his own video on this as well, since he's the one who spearheaded the unblurring. I'm going to give you a link to his video too, so you can go over and check out his theories, which differ slightly from mine upon what these scenes actually mean. So before we get into any of this, spoiler warning, be forewarned, in this video I will talk about scenes from the first season of Amazon Prime's Wheel of Time show. These scenes most likely occur between episodes 2 and 3 of the show, so if you haven't already read at least book 1 of Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time, I will ruin plot points and character arcs for you. Alright, with that out of the way, let's get on to the great unblurring. Alright, so this is essentially what Amazon Prime was giving us at the beginning of some of these teasers, a blurred script with some lines visible. So, Matt from the Dusty Wheel and a few people he recruited went through the script and unblurred everything. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to go through these scripts and I'm going to try to place them where they're going to be at in the show. I'm going to do this with a bunch of different information, whether it be stuff we already know from production interviews, cast and crew interviews, when cast and crew were on set, when production team was on set, leaked photos, things of that nature. Everything basically that is publicly available to almost everyone to look at, and coincidentally, all stuff I've covered here on the channel. So I'll use all that to augment my theories and kind of put some context behind them, and we'll figure out, try to figure out where these things fit into the show and what context they're in. So when Matt and company took this, they unblurred it to look like this. Now that's beautiful. They did a lot of stuff here. Everything that's basically bolded or in red, they unblurred and they figured out what it said. So I'm going to read the script and then I'm going to talk about how this fits into the show. So Shader Logoth ruins house continuous and finds someone's house. It's in ruins now, but it's clear they were wealthy. When he sees the glint of light shine, it's a small gold and black chest, beautiful but aged. He moves towards it, blowing dust away. The iron is rusted and decayed and cracks as he opens the case. Now this part we've already known because we've seen it. And inside he sees something protected from the ravages of time, a ruby-encrusted dagger. It must be worth more than anything he's ever seen before. He picks it up, looks at it, and then, and this is back where it goes to the blurred part, a high-pitched inhuman scream comes from outside. He whips his head back towards the scream. And then exterior Shader Logoth ruins, temple, night, a line, the horses, and then some more blurred text. Now, when Matt covered this in his unblurring video, essentially what he had said that The text, as seen in this image, is the scream of a horse as what is described like Mashadar wrapping itself around the horse, and one would assume consuming it in some form or fashion. So that's what he's saying about this. Now I'm going to lay in some context here where I think this shows up. Now I'm almost sure this is in episode 2. So in episode 1, it's titled Leave Taking. It probably ends at or around chapter 10 of The Eye of the World when the Emmonsfielders leave Emmonsfield. I mean, that chapter is titled Leave Taking, so it's not a big stretch. It's probably around there. So I think they're going to be leaving Emmonsfield, and just like in the books, there's going to be a bit of a chase. So they're going to see the Shadow Spawn chasing them, and I think they're going to end just as they leave Emmonsfield. I don't think we're going to see much of the chase. I don't think we'll see Terran Ferry. I think they're going to save all of that for episode 2, because it's scary. It's a cliffhanger. You don't know what's happening. I think that would be a perfect spot to end the end of episode 1. So Leave Taking will probably end with them just leaving Emmonsfield. Now, episode 2 is titled Shadows Waiting. Now, we all know Shadows Waiting is Shadar Logoth, so we kind of figured we'd see it in some way, shape, or form. All the leaked images kind of, hinted at that. We knew for a fact that that was going to happen. We just didn't quite know where, but we know that the episode title is Shadows Waiting, so that's got to be Shadar Logoth. So I think that this scene happens within episode 2. Now, how I think they get there is essentially they're on the run when they leave Emmonsfield. They're outrunning the Drahakar, other Shadow Spawn, whatever is chasing them. They make it to Terran Ferry. We know that Terran Ferry happens in episode 2 because of that leaked image from Brandon Sanderson's newsletter almost a year ago now, where it said that Hightower was killed. So we know that happens there. I think they're going to get across the Terran, but they have to get to Shadar Logoth somehow. Now, we can be pretty sure at this point that Berlin is probably cut in some way, shape, or form. Probably not there at all, because we do know that Kay Alexander is not going to be in the episodes until episode 7, and she plays Min. So if we're not seeing Min in Berlin, there's probably little to no reason to go there. So we're probably not going to see Berlin. What I think is instead is going to happen is they're going to carry on the road. We do know they're probably going to meet some White Cloaks in this episode because of the actors and actresses that were on the set that day. So I think we're going to see the White Cloaks, and I think that'll set them up for another chase. I think they may, at that point, encounter the Shadow Spawn along the road, like they do in the Eye of the World, but I think the White Cloaks might be there as well. I think we might see a battle, and I think that might give the Emmonsfielders a chance to escape. Rather than Moiraine using her power the way she did in the books, I think it might be more of a practical thing where they just take off. And I think they're going to find refuge in Shadar Logoth. So I think this does happen about there in the story. That's my guess. I'm pretty sure that's what's happening. And this is probably, they all get there together. They all go to camp for the night. And Matt, being Matt, wanders off. I mean, it's Matt. I mean, he's known for wandering off and doing things like that. He's probably wandered off. He's probably searching through things. And this is where he sees the house. This is where he sees the ruins. And when they talk about that scream from the horses, my guess is that's everyone else out looking for him. So they're probably already out there looking for Matt. He hears the scream from the horses. He snatches a dagger. He runs out to see what's going on. I think that's what we're seeing there. Now, during all of this, is Thom with them? 100% no. I don't believe he is, because we know that Alexander William was not on set until episode 3 and 4. So he's not going to be in episode 1 and 2 because of scheduling conflicts. He just wasn't around. But it's possible they filmed some things and kind of cut them back, maybe, but I really doubt it, because the next script pretty much guarantees this is where the boys are going to meet him. So this is the next script. So we have the unblurred part. The blank is blank blank filled with longing. Rand says, has anyone else come to town around our age, a woman with a braid or a big man, a blacksmith? Dana, our only other fresh one in town's the Gleeman. Best quiet down, he's supposed to do one more song. And then more unblurred, she nods her head to Thom Marilyn, 50s, who's finishing a beer as he heads back up to the stage carrying his guitar. Thom is wearing the patchwork of color on the inside of his cloak, identifying him as a Gleeman. So, this most likely happens after Shadar Logoth, because you can tell they're separated from the context of the blurred script. Rand is asking about a woman with a braid that could be Egwene or Nynaeve, probably Egwene, because that's who he's going to be most concerned about, or a big man, a blacksmith, Perrin. So we know that in the books, Egwene and Perrin got separated, and they were together. So Rand is either, at this point, by himself, but if they're talking about, Egwene and Perrin being together, I'm going to guess that probably they're going to split much like they did in the books, and we're going to see Rand and Matt together, And then we'll see Moraine and Lan and perhaps Nynaeve doing their own thing. The party split into three. And this is one of the big mysteries. We didn't know who Dana was. When they released the casting for Dana, everyone was very confused, kind of like when they did with Steve, because there is so many characters in the books, 2,782 named characters. Why would they make up more characters? Well, here's the why. There are thousands of more characters that don't have names that populate the world. And this kind of seems like Dana is working at a tavern. Now, I'm going to guess that this is probably prior to Four Kings. What's going to happen here is I'm going to say that Mashadar attacks just like it did in the books during Shadar Logoth. The party runs away, they split. You have Perrin and Egwene taking off, doing their own thing. You have Rand and Mat in their own way. You have Moraine, Lan, and perhaps Nynaeve doing their own thing as well, just like in the books, exactly the same. And I think that split will cause them all to run, and then Rand and Mat will eventually find the road and start along the road, and that'll be their section of the Eye of the World where they're on the road and they're coming into their own, but they haven't met Thom yet. They're going to come to their very first inn, the very first town. I think they're going to come in dirty, disheveled from the road, and basically desperate because they have no idea what they're supposed to do. This is where they'll meet Thom. Thom will see their plight, kind of talk to them a bit. Rand and Mat will not know not to talk about the Aes Sedai. They will basically lay their whole story out to him because they're very trusting people. That's what they are, small town trusting people. And then Thom will take them under their wing, and then that will start Thom's trek with them during episodes 3 and 4, before perhaps he gets quote unquote killed by a Fade or Myrddraal or someone else in the series. So this, I believe, sets them up very first in after Shadar Logoth. They're on the road. They're desperate. They meet Thom, and one of the big mysteries that has come out the last little bit, Dana. Dana is, I believe, not anyone super special. I don't think she's going to be Thom's apprentice. I don't think she's going to be anyone else, but I think she's just going to be one of the servers in an inn, in a bar that they're in a town. She'll have a few lines like here where she talks, and that'll pretty much be it. Now this is probably going to mirror in my head. This is probably going to mirror the scenes in the Great Hunt, sorry, not the Great Hunt, the Dragon Reborn, where Mat is in Tar-Valon, and him and Thom meet in an inn, and the serving girls are sort of enamored with Thom. They're looking after him because he's older, he's whatnot. I think Dana's going to be kind of mirroring that. It's going to be kind of a nod to the fans when they talk about that stuff there. That's my guess. That's 100% my guess. I'm not entirely sure, but it's my guess. So that's where I think these scripts are taking us. That's what I think is happening. I think we're seeing everything from episode 2, perhaps all the way up to and including episode 3 here. All right, so I know at this point some of you are out there thinking, but John, you're missing some major stuff. You did not mention the Spray. You didn't mention Bael Daman. You didn't mention Whitebridge. None of those things come up. Well, here's why. I honestly think that the way they meet Thom in the books means that they're probably either cutting out the Spray entirely, or they're shifting it to another part of the story for another reason. Because, and hear me out here, the whole reason they kind of got to stay in the ship and everything was okay was Thom said that Rand and Mat were their apprentices. He kind of spoke for them a little bit. He kept them under his wing, and they were practicing as they were going along, keeping the crew entertained. Now, if it was just Rand and Mat by themselves and they ran down to the river and jumped on a boat, pretty sure it wouldn't go over well for them because neither one of them are going to be alive very much. They're probably going to say the truth, and it's probably not going to go over very well at all with Mr. Daman. So that's my thoughts. I'm guessing that that's probably not there. It's probably not even in the show. That's my guess. Plus, unless it was done on a soundstage, we've had zero hints that the Spray is even in the show at all. It's possible, but we've had zero hints of it. So there's that too. That doesn't help. All right, so what else have I missed here? Well, you're saying that they meet White Cloaks in the road? That doesn't make any sense. They meet them in Berlin, yes, but we know that Berlin's probably cut. And if Berlin's cut, it still makes sense to see White Cloaks that early in the series because you're introducing them to the audience. You want them to know who they are. They are a major player, a major component of the world. They can still have their little altercation on the road rather than in the town. That way they're introduced. We do know that some of the actors and actresses that are associated with White Cloaks were on set around that time, so it does make sense that they're probably on set with the M1's fielders. Doesn't mean they're filming scenes with them, but it makes sense that maybe that is what's happening there. And then the chase into Shadar Logoth, that part is probably pretty much the same. Now, why do I think Matt's alone? Matt is probably alone because, like I said, Matt's Matt and wanders off on his own, and everyone's out looking for him because he's being Matt. He's not with the boys. He doesn't coerce them to go with them because in that little clip we've seen, he was by himself. There wasn't a big treasure room. He was just in a ruined house. He opened the box and pulled the dagger out and said, all right, let's make a deal. I don't think he's talking to Rand or Perrin, rather, at that point. So there's that. So let me know in the comments down below how you guys think. How mad at me are you that I think the spray is cut? Or do you think it'll fit in somewhere else? Or do you think I'm completely wrong about that? How do you think my theories are going to hold up when the show comes out? Do you think that I'm even close to being right? And let me know what your theories are too with these little bits of unblurring scripts and all the other information we have. Is there anything I forgot or I could have mentioned? I know there are a few out there probably will pick up on things that I left out unintentionally. Let's be honest here. I'm a bit scatterbrained. I like to talk, so once I get talking, I just get on a roll, and that's it. Let me know in the comments down below. Also, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do so. I put out Wheel of Time on Prime-centric stuff at least once or twice a week. I cover news, leaks, pretty much anything and all around the show. I also put out regular Wheel of Time content, and I also occasionally get the odd interview, which is very, very nice. So there's that. Now, before we go, I have one more thing to mention, and that is it is Elitsa's birthday in the month of April. She's turning 40. If you don't know who Elitsa is, she does the graphic design for the channel as well as our music, and she is phenomenal. She's been a big help here to the channel. She's done a whole lot for us, and for her birthday, she's hoping to get a new program to do a little bit more music. Now, she does have her own YouTube channel that is linked down below in the description box if you want to go check that out. She does a lot of different music, some of it Wheel of Time related, some of it not, but it is all very good, and she's hoping to get a new program for her birthday. So she started a coffee fund, and that basically is if you guys like the graphic design, if you guys like the music she does, you can zip over there, and I've left a link to this coffee down below in the description box, and donate a couple of bucks to her so she can get this program. Go check out her channel. Subscribe to her channel if you like her music. It is really very good. All right. Well, thank you so much for sticking with me here to the very end, and here's to many more.